think today is wonderful too. I think for the young people, they have probably a little more fun, but, but, but I wasn't brought up to take I was brought up that church service was serious. I mean, the word of the Lord. We weren't to be noisy or naughty or any of that.
I'm remembering the time that my cousin Carol and I went up in the balcony. And at that time, the board met on Sundays, noon, maybe special meeting, don't remember. But the two of us went up with our Cromwell banks, which we were given to take home to put our coins in. And we decided that the thing to do was to throw these Cromwell banks from the balcony down into the board meeting. And needless to say, both the fathers were a member of the board, and we never did that again. And I'm sure that there are other stories like that people can come up with, of things that you did that you remember, shouldn't have done that.
I can remember, I used to be friendly with Dorothy Erickson, Pastor Erickson's daughter. We were the same age. And we were in the balcony one Sunday, and he announced in the balcony for us to come down and sit in the front row. That was terrible.
It has nothing to do with me, but my older brother, he and several other boys his age, teenagers, all hung together, and they'd have a lot of fun together. And one day somebody told them that in the church next door, Notre Dame, they had all these life-size statues up there. And so the boys were all interested. They'd like to go and see them. So one day they all went up there, and they were all being very quiet and nice and walking around seeing all these big statues and everything. And one of them, full of Dickens anyway, he pointed to one of them and said in Swedish, "That guy's got smelly feet." They all broke up. And in those days, they swept the church out after them. They kicked them out.
I think of Young People's Society because we had such a good time. We were all ages. We could join when we were 16, and I think Lois and I were the youngest. When we came in, there were, some of them are older, 16 to 30, I think it was. And we just had such a good time. I can remember after the meetings, we'd play ping pong and play games, and we'd stay down at church until really late. And then we'd go out to eat afterwards, and we just had a great time. And that's where I met Al, actually through Young People. And he started taking me home after we were a little older. I was older than 16.
17.
I was a little older than she was.
And another thing we did at Young People's, we used to have programs that we used to give in different churches. And that was really fun. And we'd have quartets and octets. We'd have programs. And we'd go as a group in cars, and we'd drive to, Waltham and all these different churches, and would meet their Young People's Society. And we were very active. We had a great time. I look back on those days. They were really fun.
Nancy reminded me of the fact that when we went to these different church things, Nancy and I were always together, and would always ride with Nancy and Al, with Al.
So he gave you a ride home too.
First.
But the thing we didn't know was we worked together on it, and sometimes she'd sit in the middle because we had 3 people, and sometimes I'd sit in the middle because we weren't sure which one he might be interested in.
I was a little older, but had some wonderful memories of Young People's. But I also have to confess a sin in my life. And that is, during a very, very special church service, myself and 2 or 3 of my partners in crime were on our knees under the chairs playing cops and robbers. And I must say that it was awful, but we had so many laughs after that, that when I think of it now, I really have to laugh. But I also say that God's grace took over after that, and we realized that that wasn't the thing to do, but we did have a lot of laughs over that. I won't confess who my partners in crime were.
I thought you were going to tell us Al drove you home too.
And up at the balcony, my kids will sit up there. And Arthur Peterson, do you know that Myrtle Strand? Now that's an old family.
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. But Arthur Peterson would say to me, I could always tell if your kids were behaving up in the choir loft because I could tell them by my eyes. He could tell if I was scolding them with my eyes or not. Because they were misbehaving.